Scanning for audio.
Welcome to day one of the Tin Dog Podcast, Short Trips All Week. Short trips has a long and noble history. Basically, they are the name collectively given to short stories that have been written in the normal tradition. Being read out, or indeed originally when they were the BBC books and the Virgin books, they were just published short stories that managed to get into our heads. And of course our hearts. Big Finish published many tomes of these books, and I wish I'd shelled out the money and bought them all rather than just a few of them. There's a couple out there that I'd really like to get my grubby little protuberances on, but let's face it, I don't have £100 spare to buy a single edition. Oh no, these things are glorious and wonderful, but they're very difficult to get hold of. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this brand new range of short trips that exist in the form of audios that you can download only. They're coming in about $2.99 and run about 40 minutes long. As short stories go, they're brilliant. And the first one is by far my favourite of the entire run so far. Flywheel Revolution. Now I've got a love-hate relationship with the First Doctor's time. I'll be the first to admit this. But I simply adore Flywheel Revolution, and as far as I'm concerned, it's possibly one of the greatest short stories I've ever heard. It's beautifully crafted, sculpted almost into existence. The reading by Peter Purves is brilliant, and the characterisation is superb. If you've ever read the old Robo Hunter stories that were in 2000 AD, that'll give you an idea of the sort of world that this is set on. Except it's so atmospheric, it's so world-building, that these robots just feel real. You can picture them. You can picture the strange little mechanical quirks that come across in the storyline and the constant storm that's raging. You can totally relate to the characterisation and the points of view of the creatures as they stir and watch and wait for the monsters to come. It's glorious, but don't take my word for it. Here's the synopsis. On a planet in the far future, Frankie and his fellow robots have been consigned to the scrap heap, doomed to explore no further than the limits of the artificial wall. Life goes on day after day until a monster appears in their midst. It lives alone in a small hut on the edge of the scrapyard, and it scours at nights for the remains of dead robots. Frankie sets out to confront the monster in its lair. Its name? The Doctor. It's just a beautifully written piece. I can't emphasise it enough. If you can, track this down. Grab it, snaffle it, and listen. Here's an excerpt and I'll let you hear. And remember, we're doing short trips all week here on the Tin Dog Podcast. So until tomorrow, be seeing you.
My clock told me it was 5:15 and 23 seconds. And it was 5:15 and 23 seconds 10 minutes later when we finally crested the hill of junk. Once we stood on the ridge, the full force of the storm hit us. The wind and the rain slid over me, but Toby was nearly lifted off his stubby legs. The cloud was so low and thick that we could barely see anything. I peered fiercely into the gloom. It was 5:15 and 23 seconds.
Why am I doing this?
Toby wheezed asthmatically to himself. Don't pretend you don't want to see it. Lightning flashed. striking another junk pile a kilometre below us. We could see the metal liquefy and fuse. Sparks danced across the surface of the scrap until the mist and the rain drew in again. It was beautiful.
We have to go back.
Toby shivered behind me. This way, I said, heading down the hill again.
Frankie, you have no idea where you are.
It was still 5:15 and 23 seconds.
You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast, available on RSS, iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom and Tumblr. Doctor Who and its associated works are copyright of the BBC. No infringement is intended. You can contact the show, donate, buy merchandise or find out more about my other projects by visiting the Tin Dog Podcast homepage and clicking on the links. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.